us today. As you probably saw, we were covering the logistics on the back end. So thanks for being patient with us as we get started today. You have tuned in to one of our New Mexico Economic Development Department's webinars that we highlight and focus on financing opportunities for businesses and resources for businesses in the state. And today we're really excited to pull together a fantastic panel for you to discuss an overview, just give you an insight picture into some really great resources that are available for businesses looking to engage in international trade or looking to expand or figure out what is available. So I do want to let you know that this webinar is being recorded. So this will be on our YouTube channel, and you can find this session as well as many others. I think we're almost up to 50 or 100 sessions that we have done over the past few years covering various topics. We are going to provide this presentation to you after this session. So if you have to jump off, no worries, we'll get that to you. And hopefully that'll come sometime this afternoon or early tomorrow. We did get your questions as well that you submitted when you registered. So we'll do our best to address those at the end. If we can't get to them, we will send those questions out to all of our panelists, and they can follow up as well. If you have questions that come up during the session, feel free to go ahead and submit those. You should see a questions box on the right side of your screen. So type those as you come, and we'll do our best to get those to you. I did want to provide a bit of background on the Economic Development Department while we have your attention. Do a shameless plug and make sure you know about some of the things that we've got going on. Our Cabinet Secretary is Alicia Keys. Our Deputy Cabinet Secretary is John Clark. And as you see, we've got several divisions within our department. And one of those, as it relates, especially today, is the New Mexico Border Authority. We do have a financing program that I want to make sure that everyone's aware of, called the Collateral Assistance Program. This is our ability to help provide collateral on those projects that have a deficiency or a shortfall in collateral on commercial loans. We are able to purchase a CD and put that in the bank so they can limit their risk, so they can make the deal go through. As we know, during these uncertain times, lenders are really hesitant to lend right now, and so they're looking to limit their risk. So this is a perfect program to be able to help businesses look at recovery efforts, look at projects in a COVID era right now. So we do have a focus on business owners who are women, U.S. veterans, ethnic minorities, and part of other socially disadvantaged groups. We also put a special focus on the governor's 9 targeted industries that are listed here. So if you think this program is a fit for your project, feel free to reach out and we can engage in a conversation about that. Really quickly, here's a snapshot of our numerous financial programs. I'm not going to go into these, but when you have this slide, these are links that will take you to these respective pages and you can find out more information. And then also want to take the time to let you know that our department has regional reps that are located all throughout the state. They live in their areas and they are experts at what's happening in the region and are very well connected to the network of resources for businesses as well as communities in their parts of the state. So if you don't know your regional rep, they're a great way to connect with our department and connect with resources. You can go to this link and find all the pertinent contact information for your regional rep. And then want to make sure that everybody is aware of how to stay up to date and in tune with our department. As I mentioned, this information session is a part of our webinar series. We host these at least once a month. During the pandemic, we've been hosting a lot more as programs come online, especially in regard to COVID relief. Our next one is February 24th, we'll be hosting that with the SBDC's PTAC, going over government contracting. And then I wanted to put a plug for one of our partners, the SBA New Mexico District Office is hosting a PPP overview webinar, and that'll be on the 28th. And also, one of the things to keep in mind is we are putting out news updates every Friday, these weekly wrap-ups that we are scanning not only state resources, but national resources. So this is a great way to stay up to date with financial opportunities, whether it's grants, loan programs, news, webinars, events. It's a pretty comprehensive list of opportunities that are available for business and nonprofits. So if you don't get those, go ahead and sign up for them. And then here's our website, gonm.biz, and then a link to our YouTube channel. So thanks for bearing with me for that plug on our department and what's going on. Let's go ahead and get started. So I wanted to introduce our first panelist, and that is Mark Roper, and he is the Economic Development Division Director for our department. So Mark, take it away.
Thank you, Joanna, for all of that, and thanks for shamelessly plugging our department and all the resources that we offer. I appreciate that. I'm not going to take a lot of your time today. I'm going to highlight a couple of the programs that we work with as far as international trade and how we approach things, and then I'm going to leave the bulk of the time for the rest of our presenters. So real quick, we have an Office of International Trade. That office's focus is twofold. One is to assist New Mexico-based businesses develop and export their products made here in New Mexico. The majority of that funding is acquired through an SBA STEP grant, which allows us to offset those costs associated with attending trade shows, doing things such as market research, to determine which markets your product may or may not be a fit for, and also doing things such as optimizing your website. Specifically, if you're looking at a specific market outside of the United States, making sure that your website is conducive to the language of the area that you're exporting to, and making sure that all of the links and everything are not only translated, but also look and feel right to what that user is typically used to looking at in their native language. So those trade shows, sales missions, those are all allowable expenditures under the STEP grant that we can help offset those costs with those. Unfortunately, as we all know, COVID has put a big kibosh on travel, and which means a lot of our overseas and out of market trade shows have become non-existent and or virtual in nature. But we can assist with those virtual trade shows. And then once we get vaccinated and get back on our feet from a travel perspective, we'll be able to start assisting you with designating trade shows that you can attend abroad. Typically, what we cover is all the costs associated with that show, meaning booth rental and all of those types of things. And the only cost you're out is getting yourself to the trade show, is typically how that works. Currently, our longtime director of international trade, Edward Herrera, has retired. Right now, the duties of international trade are falling on our deputy director, Sarah Gutierrez, and her email is sarah.gutierrez@state.nm.us. And you can contact her right now for any questions regarding the STEP grant in international trade. We are in the process of contracting with an outside contractor to assist with STEP grant development, STEP grant resources to get us through the rest of the fiscal year as we move on to that. The second item that our Office of International Trade talks about is foreign direct investment. And very specifically, I mean, we're open to foreign direct investment from anywhere, But specifically, we have targeted Taiwan. We've had some unique success with Taiwan, especially along our southern border in the Santa Teresa region. We've successfully landed 3 companies in the last 24 months to make Santa Teresa their home. Admiral Cable is just finishing up construction on a manufacturing facility for their cords and power supplies in Santa Teresa. Admiral Cable is a U.S. offshoot of Aishing, the #1 producer of cords and power supplies in the entire world, and they are setting up shop in Santa Teresa. We have also recently announced that Symmetric, a company associated also out of Taiwan, has made Santa Teresa their home. They just recently finalized their lease last month, and will be making Santa Teresa their home. And also a third company by the name of Zentria. They manufacture panels that go into trailers for the tractor trailer industry. This is a joint venture with our friends in Mexico, with in the San Jeronimo area, and they will be manufacturing in San Jeronimo, and then they will be doing their logistics, management, and transportation out of Santa Teresa, New Mexico. So due to those successes that partially came out of a visit with Secretary Keyes and Dominic Gabello, who is out of the governor's office and a special assistant to the governor pre-COVID, we have hired a contractor that will be stationed in Taiwan, and a gentleman by the name of Ethan Chen. He is currently in flight back to Taipei at this moment as we speak, and he will be setting up office in Taipei, and will be a full-time contractor working on developing businesses look to New Mexico for that transition and build on the success that we've had. So we're really excited about having a full-time consultant in Taiwan, having a New Mexico office in Taipei, and we hope that leads to other offices and other locations as we grow our international trade office. The final item I'd like to mention is, you're going to hear from a lot of our partners that we work with and all of the resources that are out here through various and associated areas. And the final partner I'll talk about is the International Business Accelerator. Now, they're kind of a one-stop shop for New Mexicans and New Mexico businesses and individuals wishing to, introduce their product or their service into a market outside of the United States. They also offer educational programs on how to export, how to import, and they also have an electronic database that they can help you access to determine some trade leads, joint venture opportunities, and those kind of things. Also, the International Business Accelerator works on outgoing and reverse trade missions with foreign buyers and sellers. And the great thing about the International Business Accelerator is not only the experts that they bring to you, and they offer one-on-one counseling, but it is a legislatively funded program, which means that they provide these services to New Mexico businesses at no additional charge. So they're a great resource. They're led by Jerry Pacheco, as you can see by the slide that Joanna's put up, and there's all of his contact information. They're a great partner for our efforts in international trade, as well as the rest of the presenters that are going to follow me. We have great relationships across the board, and we're always willing to work with anything. So if you as a business have some questions or are looking to expand your market, feel free to reach out to us. We'll do what we can to assist you in working with all of our partners and utilizing our resources. And if you're a local economic development organization or chamber, again, feel free to reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to work with you. We'll utilize our regional rep network to put on seminars if you'd like to do that at a local level. So I'll be quiet. I've talked way more than I probably should have, but thank you for Thank you for your time. Thank you for your interest in international trade. And I look forward to hearing the rest of our presenters.
Great. Thank you so much, Mark. And we'll move on to our next presenter, and that's Alberto Rodriguez Baez from the MBDA Export Center. So Alberto, I'm going to give the control over to you.
Great. Thank you very much, Joanna. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak today. And I am very excited to have the opportunity to tell you a little bit more about the San Antonio MBDA Export Center. I cannot see the slides right now, so I'm going to just wait a second to get the slides back. And in the meantime, what I would like to mention is that the MBDA, if you're not familiar with the MBDA, is the Minority Business Development Agency. The MBDA is an agency from the Department of Commerce, and the MBDA has a vast network of offices around the country. We are one of these offices. As a matter of fact, the San Antonio MBDA Export Center is only one of 3 export centers. Our export center focuses on exports to Latin America, and I'll talk a little bit more about it. But something that I wanted to mention is that we have a national program. The export centers are designated as national programs, meaning that we can assist companies from anywhere in the country, not just from San Antonio or from Texas. We can help companies from anywhere in the country. And we have actually some clients from the New Mexico area. So let me tell you a little bit about the Export Center. And the Export Center mission is to assist ethnic minority-owned companies to be successful as exporters. That's a very specific mission and a very specific type of client. Our clients are ethnic minority-owned companies, meaning that the clients that we assist, those companies have to be owned by people that are under one of the categories, ethnic minority categories designated by the federal government, like Hispanic, Asian, African American, Native American, Pacific Islander, and so on. There are about 8 or 9. And again, we focus very specifically on assisting these companies, these ethnic minority-owned companies, to export to Latin America. So as you can see, our type of client is very specific, and the region where we assist helping is also very specific. The other 3 export centers that are part of the MBDA network, one of them is in Sacramento, and they focus on exports to Asia. The other one is in Chicago, and they focus on exports to Africa. And the other one is in Miami, and they focus on exports to the Caribbean. So again, I'm gonna focus on our center, and we are very excited to be able to assist these companies to export to Latin America. Now, we have very specific services that we provide to our clients, and I'm gonna go over them fairly quickly, but we provide export consultation. And something that I want to mention is that we are a boutique operation, if you will. We work with a few companies every year. We don't have hundreds of or thousands of companies that we work with. So we work with companies that are already exporting. We don't usually work with startups or companies that are not exporting. However, we're flexible on that matter, and we can assist companies that are not currently exporting, but they are fairly close to being ready. Anyway, most of the companies that we assist are already exporting. We provide further consulting to help them become more effective, more efficient in their export operations. Also, we help them with the identification and introduction to capital sources and trade finance. For example, we introduce a lot of our clients to the STEP grant and resources in their own states that they don't know about. Like, for example, if we have a new client in New Mexico, we'll make sure that they knew about the resources available through the EDD. So that's one of the things that we help our clients with. Also, we have a market research team that assists us to identify international contracts for companies that want to target opportunities through contracts abroad. And also, we introduce clients to new international markets. Now, introducing them to international markets takes a lot of different ways or shapes. We partner a lot with U.S. Commercial Service to introduce clients to all the resources available to them in those markets. And also, we help clients to execute their export strategy. So if the client needs assistance with negotiations or going to a specific market to find potential buyers or things like that, we can do that. And definitely we do a lot of collaboration with the U.S. Commercial Service. For example, we were in Costa Rica last year, taking clients, and in this picture you will see several of our clients, and this is at the U.S. Commercial Service office. We did a collaboration to take clients from the United States to Costa Rica to receive the Gold Key service that Bob will talk about later. And the services from the U.S. Commercial Service are phenomenal, and we partner a lot with them to bring clients to those markets. In this picture, I was there with our client. Our client is in the left, and he was pitching his products to a potential buyer in Costa Rica. But of course, we don't have any more B2Bs in person, if you will, or matchmaking trips or international business development trips in person for the time being. So now we are doing virtual B2B matchmaking events. So last December, we conducted a virtual B2B matchmaking event in Mexico, and it was a great success. We had companies from the United States being introduced to potential buyers in Mexico via video conference, and it was a tremendous success. And I want to let you know, right now, I'm making the worldwide announcement, the worldwide premiere, that we are going to do a B2B matchmaking event for Colombia. So if you are interested in learning more about it, this is a picture from the B2B. We were doing the introduction there last December for one of our clients to some buyers in Mexico. But anyway, what I wanted to mention is that we're going to have this B2B virtual matchmaking event for Colombia in February, the last week of February. So if you're interested, you can see my email address, or if you're interested about any of our services for ethnic minority-owned companies regarding exports to Latin America, feel free to email me. I'll be super happy to talk to you and bring to you all the resources available through the San Antonio MBDA Export Center. With that, I am done. And Joanna, back to you.
Thank you so much, Alberto. We know you've got another webinar coming up, so busy man. Okay. And I am just switching over controls to our next presenter, and that is Eric Miller, who is the Regional Director in the Office of Small Business for the Export-Import Bank. So Eric, take it away. Oops.
Thank you, Joanna. I want to echo Alberto's comments in thanking the state of New Mexico and the EDD for organizing and hosting this webinar. I know these things are a lot of work, so thank you guys for putting this together. So I'm the regional director for XM Bank, which is short for the Export-Import Bank of the United States. No, we don't support imports, even though that's in the name. They came up with that name because when there's an international trade transaction, there's an export and an import. We only focus on the export side of US made goods and services. So on the agenda today, I want to give you a little bit of background on XM Bank and then dive into our two core products as it relates to the exporter side, which is the export credit insurance and the export working capital guarantee. So a little bit of background on XM. We are what's called an export credit agency, or an ECA, and we are the official one of the United States. So basically every developed country and some developing countries have the equivalent of us. There's roughly 200 countries in the world, and there's over 100 of us equivalent agencies trying to help their nations export origin products of their nations. So we want to help US goods and services get into the hands of foreign buyers. We're an independent agency. We're executive branch government, and we're independent, meaning we're not inside a cabinet. We have political appointees as it relates to our board of directors and chairman, and we should be getting new ones very soon under the Biden administration, since the old ones have now exited. We've been around for 87 years, headquartered in DC. We've got 12 regional export centers. I'm in the Houston regional center, and I cover New Mexico from Houston. We're not in the office, as you can imagine. Today, we are working remotely, but that really hasn't changed the service levels. It's just really changed the way we've interacted. So we're still here to serve. We're still here to do everything that we're allowed to do. Here is the export center. So again, I mentioned I'm in Houston. I cover New Mexico. Those export centers cover the corporate address of the company. So if you've got a branch in New Mexico, but the corporate address is in Washington State, for instance, we would get you over to the XM rep that handles Washington State. So I mentioned there's over 100 of us equivalent. Here's just some examples of our equivalent in other countries. You might be familiar with some of the names, maybe not. And their role is very similar to ours. We want to, as I mentioned, we want to put US made goods and services into the hands of foreign buyers. So do they with their representative countries. So the products, the core products that we offer exporters, I mentioned two of them: export credit insurance, export working capital guarantee. So the first one, the insurance piece, it's exactly how it sounds. So to compete globally, you can't always say, give me cash or give me a letter of credit. There's going to be other suppliers who are more flexible on payment. And we realize that's a risk to the US company. So if you put product in a container and you put it on a boat and say, hey, pay me 30 days later, or you conduct a service, whether it's on this side or on the foreign buyer side, and say, pay me 30 days later, a net 30-day invoice, for instance, that's a risk. And that's a big risk to many exporters, because if they don't pay you, how are you going to collect? You got a balance due in a foreign country, and maybe you're not familiar with the legal environment, the political environment, the currency convertibility. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So there's a big risk there. It's not as easy just to file a lawsuit in the US to get your money back. Getting it overseas is very challenging, especially in some parts of the world. So we want to put that risk on us. We want to shoulder that risk. We want to protect those receivables. We want to insure those receivables against non-payment. So they don't pay you, you put a claim into us, and then we pay you. And it's either 90 or 95%. We have different policies for different exporters. And again, there's a 5 to 10% exposure on the exporter side, but we'll cover anything from 90 to 95% on the insurance. So it protects you, one piece of that. The second is it's a sales tool. So I speak to exporters weekly, and a common response is, I'm forcing cash in advance to my buyers. If another opportunity comes up where they say they're used to credit or they want credit, I'm just not going to do it because I don't have a way to collect. Now, if you insure that risk, that receivable, how many more buyers and how many more opportunities can you get? And the answer from most exporters that I receive is usually quite more than what they're doing now. So it's a sales tool. The third piece to that, as far as insurance relates, it's financing. So if you've got foreign receivables, and let's say you have a traditional line of credit with your bank, and you tell your bank, hey, I'm doing $10 million a year in revenue. $1 million of that is foreign receivables. I don't want to wait to get paid. I want to finance it now because I need to have cash flow to meet payroll, for instance, or whatever, pay the bills. Lenders don't like it. They do not like foreign receivables. And 9 times out of 10, they'll kick it out of any kind of borrowing base, any kind of traditional line of credit. They'll say, we'll give you a line of credit. You can borrow against inventory, work in process, whatever, domestic receivables, but all your foreign stuff is out. So if it's insured by us, the federal government, 9 times out of 10, the lender now will put that in your borrowing base. So it expands your borrowing potential to borrow on receivables if it's insured by us. So it's a pretty simple process to get started in the insurance. You pick a policy. We've got really 4 different policies. It varies depending on, do you have one buyer? Do you have multiple buyers? Are you a small business? Are you not a small business? So once you pick a policy, and we approve it, you have a policy in place. You offer credit to your buyer. Contract's in place. You fulfill the contract. You report that shipment, that receivable shipment. You pay the insurance premium for the insurance, and you're covered. The buyer disappears on you, then you put a claim into us. Once approved, you get paid either 90 or 95%. So it's a pretty simple process. Our turnaround time to get policies in the hands of exporters was 1 to 2 weeks. It's probably running 2 to 4 weeks now. When COVID hit, it seemed like we were just flooded with applications. It was overwhelming. Everybody was worried about getting paid, and naturally so. And there's still that worry. So if you, the exporter, can benefit from this, or you know somebody that can benefit from it, feel free to let me know. Let's see, next slide, please. Joanna, are you able to move that slide? Uh-oh. Okay, so these are the covered risks. So there's 2 buckets. One is the commercial and the other is the political. So commercial is bankruptcy, insolvency, protracted default. So that's a fancy way of saying more than 90 days past due. So let's say you sell a product or service on net 30 and they don't pay you on the due date. We want you to try to collect for 90 days after the due date. That's the wait period before you can file a claim. So you try to collect for 90 days after the due date. They don't, put a claim into us under protracted default for approval. And the reason for that is simple. We don't really want to be a source for slow payment, right? There's plenty of those. This is really about non-payment. And then on the political side, things less likely, but still possible. You got currency and convertibility war. Let's say 2 countries, us and another country, get into a trade war, and that country pulls all their import licenses on that product. And meanwhile, you got a container full of product en route. You know, not likely, but it's still possible. So that's the risk. These are some of the different policies. As I mentioned, you know, if you've got 10 buyers that you sell credit to, and one of them you're not sure about, we can do it under a single buyer. If you've got multiple buyers, we've got, you know, a few different policies that we can look at. Our most popular for exporters just getting started on selling on credit, if you look in that green section, the bottom one, express policy, that's probably the most popular for for exporters new to selling on credit because it's the easiest policy to manage. We approve each one of your buyers, so you're not required to do that. And you can pick and choose up to 10 foreign buyers. So in other words, you can cherry pick foreign buyers to add to this policy, up to 10. Whereas the other multi-buyers, we have to cover all of your foreign receivables, so you can't cherry pick. And then the other option, of course, as I mentioned, is the single buyer. So you got one company or maybe two companies, you want to do a policy on each, but you don't want to insure the other. So it just depends on how many buyers you want to insure and if you're a small business versus non-small business. So pricing, small business multi-buyer policy. It's priced according to the term you give your foreign buyer. So in typical terms, there's 3 buckets, 1 to 60 days, 61 to 120, 120 to 180. Most exporters don't go beyond that. And most exporters are within that 1 to 60 day credit term. Just speaking on generalities, most exporters also sell to foreign private companies, not governments or they're working with foreign banks. So in general terms, if you look at that class 3 private section, which is private foreign buyer, and go down to 1 to 60 day terms here. So you're selling to a foreign buyer who's a private sector foreign buyer, and up to 60 day terms, the cost is 55 cents per 100, or another way of saying that is 0.55% of your invoice. So you sell $50,000 of product or service on net 60 day terms to Mexico. Your cost is $275 to insure 95% of the 50,000. So I'll say that again. $50,000 of product going to Mexico on 60 day terms. You would pay us $275 and that would insure 95% of the $50,000. And most exporters pass that on to the foreign buyer. If they're asking for finance, if they're asking for terms that, more times than not comes at a cost to the exporter, whether it's insured by us or whether the exporter is using their line of credit, whatever it may be. If you pass that on, that's of course your business, but we're just providing the cost for the insurance. So eligible exporters, you need to be in business 3 years. If you're bordering, 2.5 years and you're doing well, that's not an immediate no. There is some flexibility there. You do have to have a DUNS number. If you don't have a DUNS number, a DNB number, I can give you a process to get one for free because you're doing business with the government, so you don't have to pay for that. The third point is close to our heart at the agency because we want to support U.S. made goods and services. So anything we support, whether it's a product or a service, it has to be greater than 50% U.S. content on the cost. So if you're selling something for 100 and it costs 70, we're looking at the 70, and we're going to say $36 out of that 70 needs to be U.S. content. Now, we usually stop at your first line of vendor. So if you're buying from here in Houston, Houston's buying from New Mexico, New Mexico's buying from California, California's buying from somewhere in Asia. We don't usually go that far down the supply chain. We want to look at your first line of vendor because holistically, our mission is to create jobs through exports. What we're trying to avoid is supporting a transaction where the U.S. exporters buying from China, I'm going to pick on China, ship it down to Argentina, and there's no value add here in the U.S. So we want to create jobs here by supporting exports of U.S. made goods and services. Let's see, next slide. Okay. So that was a lot on insurance. I went heavy on insurance. I'm going to go light on the working capital loan guarantee. So let's start with a problem. The problem is you win a $1 million purchase order from some buyer in Mexico. You walk that over to your bank and say, I need $500,000 as a line of credit to make this stuff and ship it to Mexico. Banks don't like exports. Maybe Mexico, if they've got a relationship there, you get further down to Colombia, Argentina, or you go over to Africa or Europe, and then banks really start to back up. They don't like export finance, really. So we as a federal government step in, and we're essentially a cosigner. We're a guarantee of repayment on your loan. So it enables your bank to offer you a line of credit. So in other words, that $500,000 that you needed as a line of credit for $1 million PO, if they said no, but you meet the credit standards, we can potentially step in as a loan guarantor, a co-signer on that loan. So now you have access to what we call export working capital, and you can pull from that line to fulfill export orders. You can also finance foreign receivables on that line of credit. There's to be very candid, there's not, you know, dozens of New Mexico lenders willing and able to offer this, but sometimes I've come to realize is the New Mexico lender may have a relationship back to Houston, and the underwriting is done in Houston, and then the servicing is done in New Mexico. So if your bank tells you no, don't get discouraged. Call me, and we'll see if we can work it around. So the other piece to having access to money is being able to issue standby letters of credit, bid bonds, performance bonds. So if you're in international business, this becomes a sticking point more times than not, where, you know, let's say you got a bid package with a foreign government and you got to provide a bid bond or a performance bond in order to bid. And if you go to your bank and say, hey, I've got a company and a government in Kenya saying I can bid on this $5 million package, but I need to send $1 million bid bond. And they'll say, great, put $1 million in your account. We'll block that and we'll use it for the bond. And then the exporter will say, well, why would I do that? That doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to block $1 million in hopes of winning a contract. And then he goes on with his life. So you can use that line of credit to issue bid bonds, performance bonds, standby LC. So in other words, you're not using your cash as collateral, you're using the line of credit to issue these instruments so you can have access to more international transactions. So I think I went over my time. We go to the next slide here. I can't get there. Okay, just real quickly, restrictions. We don't support anything military defense related, whether it's a product or obligor. Now, there are exceptions, dual use, humanitarian, drug interdiction. Those are few and far in between. In general, supporting anything military defense related is a no. U.S. content, I already mentioned that, greater than 50% U.S. content. The last piece, restricted countries. So on our website, we have what's called a country limitation schedule. So it shows all countries we're open in and some that we're closed in. So we're closed in roughly 20 out of 200 countries. Some of those countries may have restrictions even though we're open. So feel free to reach out to me and get clarification on that if need be. All right, there's my contact information. Thank you all for your time, and thank you once again to the state of New Mexico, Johanna and Mark, for putting this on, and happy to answer any questions at the end. Thanks again.
Thank you, Eric. Great amount of information. Thank you so much. Okay, let's keep moving and be conscious of time. I want to introduce our next speaker, and that is Robert Queen, who's the director of the New Mexico Export Center for the Department of Commerce. And I think I butchered that, Robert. So take it away.
Great, thank you, Joanna. Yeah, I'm the director of the New Mexico Export Assistance Center for U.S. Department of Commerce. And Joanna, I see that the slide just disappeared. So let's see if we can bring that back.
Okay, I don't know why that keeps happening. Sorry about that. I'll get it up and going if you want to go ahead and get started.
So Mark Roper mentioned earlier in his presentation about the foreign direct investment, FDI, taking place in Doña Ana County. And we just completed a virtual FDI mission this morning where New Mexico State University Physical Science Lab made a presentation to 70 companies in Europe and highlighting their unmanned aerial systems capabilities there at New Mexico State University, trying to inform and educate the companies in Europe, maybe encourage some of them to possibly come over to New Mexico to further develop the products that they have available in those industries. So before we talk about exporting, really probably one of the key elements in being successful in exporting is to be a world-class manufacturer and to produce your product at the lowest possible cost so that you can compete with companies around the world who are selling a similar product. So one thing that you can do to improve your manufacturing efficiency is connect with a New Mexico Manufacturing Extension Partnership, the New Mexico MEP. And I don't have a contact for them now, but I think if you do a Google search, you could reach out to New Mexico MEP and learn about the services that they offer to help you improve your production capabilities. The second thing that you want to do is form what I call your trade support group. And your trade support group is going to be logistics companies, customs brokers, Eric with the XM Bank, SBA, Mark Roper, the state of New Mexico. These people and organizations are going to form your trade support group. And one great logistics company in Albuquerque is called Team Worldwide with Scott Gray and his team there in Albuquerque. That'll be an excellent logistics company to communicate with as you move products to your customers. So the U.S. and Foreign Commercial Service, we're under Department of Commerce. We're kind of the boots on the ground organization of all the different government agencies. We are the organization that will work with you to deliver your strategy to a foreign market. So if you were to contact me and want to learn about our services, and what we would do, the most valuable service that we can offer is the Gold Key service that's been mentioned earlier, which now we're doing virtually. But I will contact our foreign post in the selected market that you're pursuing, and we will talk to our staff in that post, and we'll talk about a strategy and who you need to talk to in the foreign market to become a distributor or a marketing rep or a partnership in some way. So that's probably one of our most important services, the Gold Key service, or now we call it the International Partner Service virtual service. So also you see on this slide we have about 1,500 people located in 75 countries around the world. So we can pretty well reach any market that you would be interested in pursuing. So our main services are the foreign partner search, and we develop appointments with prospective partners. And that's probably about 50% of the work that we do. The other 50% of the work that we do is we help people and companies find solutions to problems. A lot of companies, when they go to foreign markets, they find some challenges that are overwhelming, and they contact us, and then we backtrack and look for a solution to solve that problem. A lot of companies, they'll come to us and maybe they're having a difficult time getting paid. And if you didn't take Eric's advice before me and purchase the export credit insurance, and you have a problem getting paid, it's very difficult for us to go to a foreign customer and demand that they pay you. In some cases, we're able to write a letter, we contact our ambassador, we talk to the company, and we see if we can encourage them to make a payment. But really, there's not much that we can do. But we are pretty good at solving a lot of problems that people have with logistics or documentation or some type of contract or expanding a market in some way. So those are kind of a couple of our services. One, let's see, I went too far. See if I can go back. We have a export compliance seminar coming up on February 23rd and 24th. This may be a great webinar for some of you who would like to learn more about export compliance. 2-day seminar, half day, and there's a fee for this seminar. And you can see here, if you don't capture this information, then just contact me and I'll put you in, I'll send you the slide, send you the information so you can register. We also have several additional webinars to get market updates with, the next one is February 23rd, doing business in Spain. Then March 18th, doing business in Italy, and then Germany and Russia throughout the spring. So if you're interested in these countries and learning more about some market updates on what's going on in these specific areas, give us a call. We can put you in contact with how to register for those events. So here's my contact information, phone number, email. And you're welcome to give me a call anytime if you have an issue that you know the answer to, or a market that you've already gone to, or if you're looking to go into a new market and expand, find a distributor or marketing rep or something like that. Just give me a call anytime. So thank you, Joanna. I'll turn it back to you.
All right. Thank you so much. That was great information. And I'm going to interrupt really quick. We had a comment from Massey requesting Eric's contact. So Eric, do you mind putting your contact in the chat for Massey?
No problem. I'll do that right now.
Okay, great. And I want to remind everyone that we are going to send these slides out, so you'll have everyone's contact as well. So let's move on to our final presenter, saving the best for last. Alal, Export Finance Director with the Southeast Region, the SBA Office of International Trade. So Alal.
Wonderful. Joanna, thank you so much for the introduction. Good morning to those that might reside in a different part of the country. Good afternoon to those that are in Central Texas, like I am. My name is Alal Lau, and I'm the SBA's Export Finance Manager based here in Houston, Texas, alongside Eric. And while we do a lot at SBA, one of the things that we do at SBA is support small businesses with their export sales. I believe I have control over the presentation, so I'm going to attempt to advance and see if it works for me. Voila, here we go. All right, so a lot of information is in this presentation, and so I'm just going to highlight some of, I think, the key takeaways here. So as many of you know on the line already, SBA has been tasked with a pretty big mandate. States. We do have a bucket of money tied to PPP and then some other things specific for our SBA clients. And some of those things I'll get into and talk about the benefits that are available to SBA customers. But just in general, you should know that the SBA is responding to the current pandemic that we're in. And we're doing that in such a way that, I'll be honest with you, having come from the private sector and into government, I'm quite shocked that we pivoted so that we can operate and see cash flow to the hands of small businesses. How are we doing that? And what are we asking of our businesses? Well, we're doing it in a way in which we're responding to the information that small, medium-sized companies is providing to our lending communities, which are the banks in which we partner with. And we're doing that in a way in which SBA is able to be nimble and flexible in some of our long-standing policies. And an example of that would be that the SBA has an underwriting criteria or an underwriting standard that we make applicable for all lenders. Well, because we're operating in different times, there has been adjustments in how we're asking our lenders to look at potential credit requests coming from small businesses. So an example of that might be, in the past, we've asked our lenders to maybe look at 3 years of historical financials. We want to see that trajectory of positive growth, etc., to determine if it's a viable transaction. Recognizing that, again, we're operating in a period of COVID, revenues have been impacted, etc. Now the SBA is asking our lending partners to explore why the revenues declined. Obviously, we're in a pandemic. Is there an opportunity? Is there a pathway forward to improve that or to reverse those trends? And then if there is, of course, SBA is ready and willing and certainly want to partner with the lender to make a credit transaction available to our small business owner. Why are we doing that? Why are we, and that rule is applicable not just to our regular 7A domestic loan programs that we offer to domestic companies, but it's also applicable to our international companies. And so the reason why it exists is because the SBA understands that 2/3 of the world's purchasing power is in foreign countries, as I know many of you are already aware of. And so we want to be nimble. And so what do? At SBA, we offer 3 core credit loan programs for export companies. We have our Export Express, which is a $500,000 maximum credit facility. It can be used for real estate and then also short-term working capital. So really kind of like a line of credit or a credit card, if you will. You can use this credit facility, our Export Express, for a multitude of different things, including the purchase of heavy machinery and equipment. Second, we have our international trade loan, which has become quite popular, especially given the new SBA operating guidelines. In the past, prior to October the 1st, you could not use this loan program to acquire another business. Today, you can now use the international trade loan to acquire another company, as long as it's a complete buyout of an operation. I just got back from Dallas last week, and I walked a shop alongside a lender that we're working with, and they're doing a $4.5 million international trade loan, and it's a complete acquisition of another existing business, and it's of course a strategic play by the buyer of this other business. And so SBA was happy to be a partner in that transaction. And then finally, we have our export working capital program. It too has a maximum facility size of $5 million, and it can be used for purchase orders and contracts. And then a small business owner can also leverage the foreign AR or accounts receivable and inventory on your balance sheet. I think Eric mentioned earlier that most banks are reluctant to extend credit on foreign accounts receivables and foreign inventory. Well, the SBA's Export Working Capital loan program offers up a 90% loan guarantee, so it helps to mitigate the risk, and it really serves as an opportunity for a lender to want to engage in such a transaction. So we do quite a bit of those, and the unique thing about our Export Working Capital program is that they are all underwritten, serviced, and really even liquidated out if we get to that point, all at a regional level. So there is tremendous appetite from the lending community, and to be quite frank, even our business community, to want to engage with SBA with this Export Working Capital program, because there is so much local regional control. It's not sent through a centralized hub where underwriting is handled. It's actually handled at a local level, which helps to really land the approval. So those are our 3 core credit programs. Some of the things that you should know about the SBA is that under the new stimulus plan or stimulus package, if you will, all 3 of these loan programs are eligible for what we call debt relief. And so what that means to you as a small business owner is this: if you have an existing loan, or if you obtain either an Export Express, an international trade loan, or an Export Working Capital loan today, SBA is going to pay your first 6 months worth of payments. Part of the stimulus package that was passed includes payment relief on behalf of small businesses. And so the SBA is administering that for small businesses. So it's quite nice to be able to obtain a commercial loan and get 6 months worth of payments paid for by the SBA. There is one caveat to that I should note, and that is the maximum payment is capped at $9,000 a month, and it does include principal and interest. So those are our 3 core credit programs designed to help small businesses to grow and to, of course, expand their operation. There are a multitude of things that a small business owner can do with these credit programs. What I'll tell you is that the SBA has 21 regional export finance managers positioned throughout the United States. And I am the director for the Southeast region. So I have a team of 8 export finance managers that help me to cover the region, the Southeast region. So in Texas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico, Jeremy Foreman, who sits in Houston, Texas, alongside me, actually serves as the export finance manager for that market, for the state of New Mexico. So if there's a question that you might have regarding the Export Express, the International Trade Loan, or the Export Working Capital Loan Program, those questions will likely go to Jeremy Foreman. And of course, if you can't get a hold of Jeremy, you can certainly reach out to me or any of our 21 export finance managers that are located throughout the country. So again, this presentation is loaded with information. There's no way I can get through all of it, but I thought it was appropriate to insert some additional slides that I'm not going to cover just for your own education. And then if any of the participants on this call have additional follow-up questions, I'm happy to answer those questions. And like the other presenters before me, my contact information is also inserted in this presentation, so you can certainly reach out to me directly via email or phone call if you care to, or you can reach out to Jeremy Foreman, whose contact information is also on this presentation directly, since he is the export finance manager covering the state of New Mexico. So with that, I think I've got 10 minutes to cover what I needed to cover. And I guess the main thing that I wanted to hammer home was the fact that the SBA has these 3 core credit programs. And then finally, I'll leave you with this. I think Mark mentioned it earlier. We do at the SBA administer the STEP grant program. We partner with the local state to help money flow to small businesses. And so one of the things that we do, and I apologize, I think the lawn guy is kind of by my door, but one of the things that we try to do, and we try to do it well, is we leverage that local relationship that exists with the state, our state partners, to ensure that funds via the STEP grant is flowing to the hands of small businesses. And to be frank with you, I don't think we can do it and could have done it better without the relationship that we have with our state partners. So we're thankful for that relationship, and of course, happy to continue to serve. With that, Joanna, I think my 10 minutes are up. I'm going to hand it back over to you. Thank you for the time.
All right, thank you. That was great. And that wraps up our panelist segment. So if you have questions, let's take a few of those. And so all of the panelists that we still have on the call, stand by. And I do want to mention that Alberto had to leave, so he's not on the call currently. But Elal, we did have a question from Tanya. If you could provide Jeremy Foreman's contact information, if you have that. And if you don't have it now, we can put that in the email that we'll send out to all the registrants.
I sure can. So Jeremy's contact information is embedded in my presentation alongside the other presenters. So if you'll give me a second, I will get it and I'll share it right now. 1 second.
Okay, thank you. And we had another question for you as well. And this question is asking, are companies that are receiving the SBA STEP grant funds, are they eligible to participate in the loan programs as well?
Absolutely. Great question, and they absolutely are. In fact, the STEP grant program is designed as really the first step to participate in the loan program. And I'll give you a quick example. When we were able to travel, I attended the Hannover Messe trade show in Germany. I want to say it's 2, maybe 3 years ago, and SBA, through its STEP grant program, sent 11 small businesses from just the state of Texas. We had many from all over the globe, and they returned, and we gave a $10,000 stipend. It helped pay for some of the expenses associated with that trade show. long story short, those companies came back from that trade show. Many of them came back with executed purchase orders in hand, thanks to the partnership that we have with Commercial Service. And we graduated those businesses on into either an Export Express loan program or an international trade loan, or even the export working capital product. So the STEP grant program is really designed to help open the door, and then the export working capital or any of the other 3 core credit programs is really the next launching pad to help that small business to grow. And then I have Jeremy's contact information as well. Do you want me to put that in the chat box, or?
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay, I'll do that now.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep.
We had a question from Sandra, who I recognize. She's one of the directors at the SBDC, and she's asking if you would repeat the dates of the upcoming 2-day webinars next month, Robert.
That was February 23rd and 24th for the export compliance webinar.
Okay, wonderful. And I know you had sent us some information, and we can tag that on to the follow-up email.
Good. Yeah, I don't see it in front of me at the moment, but if you want to go back to those slides, you can put it on the screen again.
Okay, I'll do that. And let's see, I'll take a few more questions. Let's see, I think this is directed at you, Mark. This is from Juan Sanchez. Do we have the contact for Ethan Chen's? Do we have his contact, or do they just contact you or Sarah to get a hold of him?
Ethan is Ethan. I can type it in the chat, but it's Ethan Chen at state.nm.us. But I'll type it into the chat.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I think this is a question for you, Ayla. It's saying, do you have requirements of the exporters as far as minimum sales revenue?
Great question. No, we do not. What we do ask is that our businesses, either if they're going to obtain an international trade loan, they need to be ready to export, meaning they need to have a solid business plan for the case to be made. Or if they're going to obtain, let's say, a working capital line of credit, they can only draw on that line of credit when they have an executed foreign purchase order or contract in hand. So that essentially all of that represents, you don't have to have historical export sales in order to qualify, but just know that you can't draw on the line or utilize the proceeds until that export sale exists.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. I am not seeing any additional questions coming through. So I'd like to throw it out to our panelists and ask if anyone has any closing remarks. I'll just go through and the order that we presented. But Mark, do you have anything you want to close with?
The only thing I'll say is I think anybody that doesn't know Joanna and all the hard work that she does on behalf of the department and our financing programs and webinars and pretty much anything else that it is to do with helping business in New Mexico, she's just an absolute rock star. So again, thank you, Joanna, for all of your hard work. And to everybody that took part in the seminar, thank you for your interest in international trade. And I hope we're able to give you some good information. And as always, feel free to reach out to us.
All right. Thank you, Mark. Thanks for those kind words. It's a team effort. All right. And then Eric, are you still on the call? You want to add any closing remarks?
Sure. No, just echo what Mark said. I wanted to thank you guys again for organizing this, the attendees for being here. There was a question from somebody in the audience regarding size, financial size to access the SBA. I'll also repeat on the XM side that as it relates to the credit insurance, we do not have a minimum. So if you're selling $1,000 of product or service to a foreign buyer, we can look at insuring that, or we can look at insuring $10 million. So, we can go past that, of course, but I just wanted to plant the seed that we don't have a minimum or necessarily a maximum. It just depends on the exporter's capabilities and the buyers as well. So we're here to support you. My only piece of advice is every one of these agencies that spoke today is of great value to anybody that's exporting or thinking of exporting. So the sooner you connect with them, I think the better. So that's all I would say in leaving comments. Thank you again.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Robert, anything to close with?
Yeah, I'd like to promote one more webinar. This is a webinar on globalizing your website, and it will take place on February 4th at 3:30 to 5 o'clock Mountain Time. And I have a flyer. Unfortunately, I forgot to load it into the PowerPoint deck, but I have information here. Joanna, I think I had sent this information to you before. So if anyone's interested, you can contact Joanna or contact me, and I will send you the information on the free webinar to globalize your website. It's especially designed for rural companies and with a special focus on Native American businesses as well. So that's it from me, Joanna. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Robert. And we'll get that information out in the follow-up email for sure. And then Ayla, if you want to take it home and close it out with any comments.
Well, I just echo, what Eric and some of the others have said already. But I mean, just the mere fact that we've got an audience of this size taking the time to hear about the services that are available to them makes me feel really, really good and optimistic about the state of small businesses. And so my tidbit of advice is to act upon the information, take advantage. Don't sit on it, take advantage. Please take advantage. It exists for that purpose. So that's all I have.
Okay, perfect words to end on. So I did see a few questions that came in at the last minute, and I want to remind everybody that I will get these questions out to the panelists, and you will get the link to this recorded session, hopefully this afternoon. And you'll also get the presentation and the webinar information that Robert mentioned. And please, as was mentioned from all of our panelists, reach out and let us know how we can help. Let's explore and discuss and brainstorm how we can help your business during these difficult times, and hopefully take the opportunity up. Okay, all right. Thank you so much. And I'm gonna end the webinar. Everyone take care.